La 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 la. Screen peeking. Bop bop bop.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 42 of Screen Peeking, a weekly podcast where Ziggy and I get together to talk about video games and anything video game related. You can catch this podcast on Google Podcasts and Spotify and here on YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about Dead Space Remake and a few other things, but that's the one I'm really excited about. I mean, let's be honest. Let's start off the show today, Zig, with just what we've been playing this last week. How have you been doing?
So I finished up replaying Outer Wilds, which was fucking great. I love that game so much. We'll be doing an episode of that on Vertical Slice at some point, so keep an eye out for that, probably beginning of next month. Then also I got a Logitech G920 racing wheel, if you're watching on video. I'm showing it here, to play some more Forza Horizon 4 with. Which is such a different experience. It's right now, I don't know if I would say it's a more fun experience, because it's fucking difficult, and I'm used to being able to just kind of cruise around, and then suddenly it's like physically taxing of trying to like hold the wheel in place. It's like kicking against me in the dirt or whatever, and also it's just way more difficult to like keep your traction and stuff like that. But it's fun, and it's such a different experience. I just think I need to get used to it, play with it more.
Right.
The one thing about it, at least with Forza Horizon 4, where because that's such like a chill out game for me, I don't necessarily... I was thinking about this today, like, I don't know if I necessarily see myself when I'm just, trying to unwind, play like a half hour of that game. I don't know if I'm going to go through all the effort to actually like clamp it onto my desk, plug in all the wires, put it in, like do the whole setup, kind of similar with VR, where
right. Yeah.
I love VR. It's such a great experience, but that setup often makes me like, or I could just play something else.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling might be where this ends up, but I do like having, like, when I am sitting down and playing, an hour or two Forza, it's worth it to clamp it on and have that whole experience, because it is so fun having the pedals and the wheel and everything. But yeah, that's about it. I've been watching a lot of Breaking Bad, but that has nothing to do with this show. So
that's a great show, though. That's a great show.
It's a really good show. Yeah, I'm on like end of season 2 right now. It's pretty dang good.
First time or like multiple times?
Yeah, I haven't seen it before. First time.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Yes, yeah. I think I watched through that full show 3 or 4 times now.
Oh, nice.
And I enjoy it every single time. I can't just like watch a couple episodes. I have to watch the whole series.
Yeah, I'm having to do the classic flip flop where like I did this with The Last of Us 2 as well, where because it's just kind of a grim and intense show, I'll like watch an episode of that and then just watch like a 20-minute episode of something like dumb and fluffy, like whoop. Just kind of shake it off and then watch another episode of that, which is it's the pattern you got to go. But yeah,
totally. Taylor needs that as well.
Yeah. Anyways, what have you been playing?
Well, I just got home from playing some bowling, and I have to tell you,
fun.
I have to tell you something first, as I think this is just ridiculous and stupid. I am pathetic. And I think I pulled something in my groin, because I actually have an ice pack right now on my lap wrapped in a towel, because I think I did something right there. I'm like hobbling around just like in so much pain. I don't know what I did wrong. I thought I was bowling correctly, and then like your arm starts to feel a little fatigued by the end of the thing. That's fine, that's normal. And I'm like, oh yeah, my arm's starting to get tired, like that's fine. But then I did something in the first game, and it was just like on fire for the rest of the 3 games that we played.
Torqued and muscle weird.
I did something. Anyways, other than that, though, pretty much haven't been playing much this week. I mean, for those who don't know, it was mine and Taylor's 2nd year, like, wedding anniversary, and that was on Tuesday. Thank you. And so we were just kind of taking we both have this week off, and we were just doing a bunch of different activities, a bunch of fun stuff like that. So bowling was one of the things, and then we're gonna go see Old tonight at the theater. And we haven't seen a movie at the theater since before COVID, so this is really exciting.
Yeah, last one I watched was Sonic the Hedgehog on opening night. So
I still haven't seen that.
I don't know what's gonna be on next one. That's a great film. That's a great film to watch on opening night at like 10 p.m. when it's only like people might like it's a kids movie, but there's no kids in the
Yeah.
theater. Like that's the prime way to watch it.
Please tell me you arrived in the blue spandex and like the little Sonic plastic mask.
I should have. I really should have.
Like, gotta go fast, kids. Just go running through.
Pushing kids out of my way.
But yeah, so I haven't played much in terms of games. It's just been a couple hours in the early morning. I have Death's Door. I want to play it, but I want to put the time into it. It was kind of that thing where it's like I could play a little bit here and there, but I really want to stream it, A, and B, I really want to like actually spend a couple hours when I do sit down to play it and not feel like I have to stop possibly every 10 minutes or so. So I have it. I'm going to be playing it on Monday at 2:30ish p.m. Pacific time. So if anyone wants to check it out on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Nicolobe, that would be great. Have to throw that in there. I'm trying to get more streaming stuff going on, so that'll be great.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, not sure when, and we'll figure it out on Monday, but I'll probably stream some more. And that's when I'll actually put some time into this, and I'll actually be able to play a good chunk. I'm really excited to play it, though. So, besides all that, I played Gears 5. And I finished the campaign, and that was really cool for me because I had started it way back, and so I just kind of continued it off where I was, and yeah, just had a good time playing through it. Kind of skipped a lot of the cutscenes, so I don't really know what was going on. I was just playing it as like a mindless thing to do in the early morning, and just really enjoyed that game. I love that active, like the perfect reload that you can do in that game,
So
just to get the
satisfying.
bonus damage bullets. It just feels so good. It feels like, yeah, I'm really good at this game, even if you're not.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I didn't finish Gears 5 either. I did really like what I played, though. To be honest, I haven't even thought about that game in a long time. I think it's just cover shooters are like really not my genre, but like despite that, I actually enjoyed that game like way more than I was expecting. I think I just played it because it was like a big Xbox exclusive and launched on Game Pass. So I was like, oh well, I can kind of join the hype around this game for free, so why not? But yeah, like the sort of open world-ish structure of it, I really enjoyed, of having like the several sort of smaller open areas that you can use your little like skid craft and zoom
You can go
around
explore,
on. I thought that
get
was a really fun
upgrades.
format. Yeah. That
Totally,
was cool.
totally. Yeah,
I
I just
guess
had it
becoming-
downloaded. Oh, go ahead. You
I
go.
like that that's becoming more of a thing in AAA games now, of sort of that hybrid between like a linear and open world game, of like Last of Us 2 kind of did this. Yeah, or like Metro Exodus that came out recently was a really good example of the like maybe 3 or 4 huge open levels with a bunch of stuff in them, and you could do that, but it's not a full open world. You still have the progression of a linear game. I think that's a really great format. I'm loving that it's becoming more popular.
I agree. But yeah, enough about that. Let's move right into like the main topic here. Actually, I should probably remind everybody from last week, before we get into the main topic, this show is going to be changing format. We've typically been doing every week. We've missed a couple here or there, but we've been doing a weekly show for Screen Peeking. Starting in August, we'll be switching over to once a month format. It'll be pretty much the last Friday of every month. That's our target, at least. And so pretty much next week, I guess that's the 30th, will be the last weekly Screen Peeking episode. So just to let everybody know about that. And if you want updates, you can follow me on Twitter at something. I_Nicolobe for some reason. That's the name. But yeah, so yeah, without further ado, let's go right into the topic of the show. EA just had a EA Play event, one of many, I think, from this month. And the only one I personally care about, as it wasn't just focused on one particular game or series. There was a couple of cool announcements in there. So, let's start with the one that we're both really itching. We were having a hard time not talking about this earlier before we even started recording. Dead Space Remake, being developed by EA Motive, and now, like, from the ground up, being made for next generation, Xbox Series S and X, and PS5 and PC. What did this do for you, Zig? Are you excited?
Oh, well, I think, cause I talked about Dead Space before and how I liked it, but I think it was just sort of the age of it that pushed me away a little bit. That said, though, like, I do think that game has a really strong, base and sort of structure to it. And so having a remake, and it seems like it's not just a graphical upgrade, but also improving like the level design and things like that I said I wasn't super hot on. Just, it's very Xbox 360-esque level design and storytelling and stuff like that. And so if they are modernizing all of those elements, which it seems like they kind of are, then yeah, I mean, I'd totally be down to jump into this, especially if it ends up on like EA Play / Game Pass. Then I like there would be no reason for me not to try it out. But yeah, I am actually really excited about this. I think I'm just hoping it solves the issues that made me not get super into the first game, because then I think I will absolutely love what this is. Also, it being a next-gen exclusive makes me very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big one for me. Like, having next-gen exclusive, I mean, I'm just going to go talk about PS5 for a sec, because that is something that has like a unique controller, right? Possibly having the different haptic feedback for, something crawling through a vent maybe, or for having your different adaptive triggers for the different weapons, just adds a bit of immersion, some fun stuff to it. Yeah, the IGN has a really good interview with some developers talking about like what their goals are for making the remake, and like what they're wanting to do to change it, and what they would do, like what they want to keep the same. And like one example they gave, one of the devs gave, was the zero gravity parts in Dead Space 1. Normally you have to like jump from spot to spot, and it's really awful in my opinion, but Dead Space 2 really makes it a lot better, where you can actually float around in 360 and move around and go any direction you want. And it really made the zero gravity parts really, really cool, and you could like fight in zero gravity and all that stuff. It was really, really neat. And so they're talking about like maybe looking at what 2 did to make like that they've improved on from 1, and being able to bring that into the first one. So I think that's a really good thing. And then they were talking about how there are certain like corridors in the first game that like maybe they could see, because they have all the original assets, they can see, the devs were going to do this, but they couldn't because of like, say, limitations on the hardware, or because design wise it just didn't make sense, and they can kind of rework that, or decide if they want to keep that, or do something added on top of the regular experience. And I think that's really cool. They also said that all... go ahead. Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So on, you're saying like doing things they couldn't do in the original but wanted to. I remember, God, I think it was like a no-clip documentary or something. I watched something about the development of Dead Space, and I remember the directors on it were talking a lot about just how much they couldn't do with the game, and how many things that they tried to get going but couldn't. And things that sounded really fucking cool, like these really insane set pieces that just they could not get to run on those consoles. And so, if they do actually find a way to take those old assets and look at them and go like, oh shit, this rocks, and then find a way to integrate that into the remake, like, yeah, that would be so sick.
Yeah, I mean, they said that they're going to be remaking like all the models, and the sounds all be like from the ground up. So that is like a cool thing, but also I always get a little worried when I hear about like the sound effects, because those are so ingrained in like my memory from 2008, and like playing through and like hearing Isaac's like staggered breathing. I'm sure they can do a great job at it. It just always makes me a little bit nervous when I hear the like, oh yeah, we're gonna redo the sound. I'm like, oh, but that's one of the things that like I really like pulled me in. So hopefully it's really great, and like I'll give them all the credit. Like, if they can pull it off, awesome. Like that's I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I think that's cool. I'm really interested just to see what they change and what they don't. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to. You said you played. It felt a little bit. There was some things that you didn't like in Dead Space 1. Like, what would those? What were those, and how far did you play through the game?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost everything there was just very like Xbox 360 isms. So, like the tutorials in the game, like the one that sticks out to me most in my head is the way that it teaches you that you need to cut off limbs, where I think it has like the big graffiti on the wall says like aim for the limbs, and then you get a voice recording. It's like, oh, you gotta shoot them in the limbs, and then one of the people in the goes like, oh, if you shoot them in the limbs, you get a pop that says you gotta shoot them in the limbs for more damage. I'm like, okay, well, fucking like I know, go away. Stuff like that like really got under my skin with it, and even just. I find Xbox 360 and PS3 games to be like the ugliest generation of games to me. There's something about like the lighting and the 30 FPS and the textures that looks like they really want to be detailed, but it just kind of looks muddy and hard to comprehend, that I really don't jive with. And that's just every game from that era. So seeing all that, graphically and hopefully with smarter, more modern design decisions, brought into a next-gen experience with really good lighting and really great looking models and textures. Like if it looks like something like the Resident Evil 2 remake, I think even that alone will get me into it so much more, having that atmosphere boosted. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of scared when it comes to, like, if they can get the humans looking really realistic, those necromorphs are going to be terrifying. Like, honestly, really cool, like, how detailed are they going to be doing that? Because, yeah, that can be really, really freaky. And if you got ray tracing in there with the flashlights and the lights on his back and all those things, like, this could be really special. This could be, and actually for me, and this you wouldn't know, but every time before ray tracing even was out on the RTX 20 or 2000 series cards, right? Like when they were talking about it, I remember the first thing I was thinking of was like, oh man, I wish Dead Space was still a thing. This would be so cool in a Dead Space game. I would tell Jesse that all the time. I was like, talk about it every time ray tracing came up, like, oh yeah, but imagine like a game like Dead Space, or imagine a thing like Dead Space where this would happen. And now I'm finally getting it. So for me, I am just beyond excited. Playing Dead Space 1 again, yeah, the game, like feeling the game, it feels older, but I actually think it holds up pretty good. And one thing I really appreciate in the first one that they kept all the way through is the map and the way they improved on it in 2 and then they kept the improvements in 3. But like in 1, you can just like, click that right stick and it just has a little glowing line on the ground kind of pointing you towards your main objective.
Yeah, that was great.
That was really cool, and it felt like it was a part of the world too, and I really liked that a lot. And then in 2,
that felt really modern. That little thing, like that was a very, very smart design decision that I'm surprised more games have not taken, to be honest.
Yeah. They improved on it in 2, where you could choose a store or your main objective or a workbench to upgrade your weapon and stuff, so it would direct you to those things as well, which was really, really handy. And just wanted to comment on you should definitely give Dead Space 2 a try, since they're not remaking that one yet. That one has a lot more color to it. And it is obviously still from the 360 era, but like the controls even just feel a lot better. Like they, for example, use X to reload instead of A and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it really is nice. Last thing, or one of the other things I wanted to mention on this remake is, using Resident Evil 2 remake as like a guiding post possibly. I really hope that this does end up being like that in terms of like quality of like, this really took a big jump from when you look at the, say, 2008 Dead Space to whatever year it is, 2022, 2023 remake Dead Space. I want to see where like you could compare it side by side and go, holy cow, that's a big jump in like visual fidelity. I know that's not like everything in a game, but when you're going to be copying a lot of like the beat by beat story stuff and maybe even the level design, I really want to see like a graphical improvement itself.
Yeah, totally. And I think, the smartest thing about the Resident Evil 2 remake is how it understood what made the original good, but it didn't just copy what made the original good, if that makes sense. Like it took the ideas and feelings from the second one and then made that feel like a modern video game, which is great. And obviously, I mean, that's going from a much older game to, the current generation than Dead Space. But I still think that they absolutely should do that for Dead Space remake, where don't just make design decisions with your reasoning being, well, that's what it was like in the first game. Make design decisions that are based off because this is fun, not just because this is faithful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and I also want to see I want to see some risks being taken. Like, I do not expect this. There's no way they're doing it. But imagine a level editor where you could like create your own like horror experience with the necromorphs. I think that'd be really, really dope. I think it'd be so fun if you could get like community created like Dead Space ships or like maps where you could like go through and like have these horror experiences that maybe other people have created. Won't happen. But I would love that. That would be so cool. I'm blanking right now on what else I wanted to. Oh, that's what it was. So they're remaking the first one. We know the original series had 2 and 3 in there. Do you think, let's say this is really successful, okay? Let's say this just is really awesome. EA is really happy with this, with how well it sells, and how popular it is. Dead Space is back. Do you think they remake 2, or do you think they do their own 2 and go from there?
Oof, I mean, I definitely don't think that they'll remake 3.
No, I agree with you there.
I mean, I guess I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, but I know from a lot of people I talk to, they think 2 is fun, but it definitely doesn't have near the reputation of the first game. So from a lot of people I've talked to who are fans of it, that's cool. Definitely the case. Yeah, not all. And
it's fine. I'm just personally offended. That's fine.
No, I just hate you specifically. I mean, personally, I would rather they make something new, but that's my take with basically everything when it comes to this sort of thing. And I think doing kind of what Resident Evil did is really smart, where, I mean, I guess Resident Evil did in the opposite order, but go back, remake the first game, prove that you can make a great Dead Space game again, and then use what you learned from remaking that into making Dead Space 4. Whatever that means, or whether it's
a first-person Dead Space 4. That's what it'll be.
That'd be interesting. I don't know if they could pull that off, but that'd be interesting. And
they could pull it off.
I think it would be smart to do what Resident Evil did as well, where like give it a new protagonist, tie it into the lore and all that, but don't make it a direct sequel to 3. Make it like a hard reboot. I think that would be very, very smart of them. But yeah, Dead Space is, I think, in a really, really similar situation now as to Resident Evil was before the release of RE7, where, it was a great series that had some shitty releases and people have kind of fallen out of love with it now. And if they can really stake their claim here and be like, hey, we're back and we're still doing a good job, I think that will be very healthy for the series.
Yeah, like your thinking is a lot along the same lines as mine, where I do actually think that they're going to do a second one. If it's we're again going off of the first one successful in this theoretical future, right? And it's super popular. I think that they would make the second game like a remake of the second game, because at least when it came out, and I know the friends I was around at the time, I don't know what it's like now. Like, again, that's where it's interesting to hear your perspective, right? But for me at the time, like 2 was amazing. In my opinion, 2 is the better game, but 1 is scarier, and it just like has that. If you're wanting that scary experience, it'll do horror in a way better, like a better way, in my opinion. But I do think 2 is a better game, and it still has those scares, and I think it does horror very well still. 3 is where it just like goes from, in my opinion, like a 9, 10 to like a 3 or 4, and just like goes crap. Like the only thing cool about it is the weapon customization, in my opinion. But yeah, anyways, that's getting off track. I think they would remake 2. Because it is so well loved, but I think what you're saying is so cool, and I think it would make sense for them to do a few like split off, and whether it was like we were saying a first person, you have it's not Isaac Clarke, it's not the main characters, like it's just this own story, but you got a first person Dead Space. I'd be down for first person Dead Space. I'd be down for a few other spin-offs too, for sure. I just want this franchise to be back, and I really want to see what it's like.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I'm trying to think, because Resident Evil also did the thing where it wasn't even about zombies anymore, which I think was really smart for what Resident Evil is. But I think necromorphs are so unique, and we also didn't get like 10 million Dead Space games like we did with Resident Evil. So yeah, I think keeping it with necromorphs, but just different ship, different protagonist, different side of the galaxy or whatever. I don't know enough about the lore to really say much, but yeah, make it separated enough from the older games, but still, retain that lore, keep the spirit that people like, and go from there.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see like almost a prequel sort of, or a situation where it's like you're playing the USG Ishimura ship, you're playing one of the people on that ship as it goes down. Classic, it's been done before, but still you do that origin story of like you're on the ship when stuff's happening, it's a grim ending no matter what, but you're wondering like what it was like to say start to go crazy, and you're like seeing friends attacking friends, or your loved ones like killing each other basically. And then, like having something like that would be very scary, and you kind of know how it will just tie right into where Isaac's approaching on his ship, and that would be really, really cool, I think. And if that was in first person, I'd love it.
Another thing I am really fucking excited about with this thing is like real-time viscera and gore effects have gotten so good in the last generation.
Fluid sim?
Like looking yeah, and like flesh sims and everything. Like when
Yeah.
you look at The Last of Us 2, it is fucking brutal the way that they do that.
Uh-huh.
And so if they put a lot of like rendering budget and shit into the gore in this game, because that was, I thought, a really strong aspect in the first game is, the dismemberment system and all that. But if they make it like real meaty and real just good, I think that'll be disgusting and really, really awesome.
Yeah, that actually does remind me. Again, developers from IGN's interview there, they did like talk about that part in particular. They specifically talked
That's
about
good.
how with the new tech, obviously they can do fluid simulation, which I was thinking blood, and then they were talking about the dismemberment and how they're really wanting to take a look at that again and to really do something better than what we had done before and make it maybe even tie into the strategy of fighting them a little bit more. So that could be really cool too, because there was that basic like, you can shoot off their legs or their arms, doesn't really matter, and maybe they'll make it matter a little bit more. Maybe they'll have more segments and, like you said, little pieces and stuff like that, which would be fantastic.
That's good to hear. That was actually also one of my complaints about the first game. Is I thought that the dismemberment system was cool, but wasn't utilized enough in the gameplay. So if they do tune that up and do make it more meaningful, then fucking
It was
awesome.
wild
Yeah.
for the time it came out. It was amazing. But yeah. Okay, so that's enough about that. We can move on now into a little game called Apex Legends that I think it was worth bringing up here because you're such a fan. Apex Legends Emergence was announced, and there was like a little bit of a trailer. I think I pulled it up, so I'll play in the back here. And they showed off a new character, Zig. Why don't you take it away from there?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say with a new character, I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest. Because they released like this animated trailer like a week or so ago that was like fucking awesome. They had like a really, really great director working on it. Didn't even look like an Apex trailer. It's just like this really fucking cool animated short. And I'm like, oh, this guy looks awesome. I can't wait to see what this is. And then they revealed him, and he's just kind of like another tracker character. Like his kit seems, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he'll be fun to play, but we already have 2 or 3 characters in the game who do basically the exact same thing as him, just in slightly different ways. So that's kind of boring to me. I feel like they really just could have done more with him, and I'm disappointed that they didn't. Like on his own, I think it's great. I just feel like it's missed potential, if that makes sense. But I mean, his design's cool. He looks really neat. He's doing this cool dance here that I think is great. Like the little drone thing. I don't know. They could have done so much. Because his kit, in case you didn't hear, I believe it's like you can send his drones out and they can sort of like track enemies, like see them through walls and stuff like that. It's all about like, seeing where the enemy is, keep like tracking them, that sort of thing. Basically like Bloodhound. Almost.
Yeah,
exactly
it'd be like
Bloodhound, just
a
in a slightly different way.
like little tiny little bug drones, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Bloodhound's very fun to play, but we already have Bloodhound in the game, so it seems a little bit redundant, I guess. Compared to, Valkyrie in the last season, who was a crazy different character and totally changed the play style of the game and stuff like that. And obviously not every character can be to that level, but yeah, just feels like a bit of a down season to me.
Right. This character sounds
I mean,
I was just going to say, this character sounds like they'd be really useful maybe as like the ring gets smaller. Like once it's like a small area, with their ultimate being that dome that can like kind of ping where everybody is inside there, like that would be, or whoever passes through it, I think is what they said. Like that sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, so my main thought with the character is I think that he is really designed toward being played in arenas almost more so than Battle Royale. Because exactly what you're saying, he seems definitely geared towards a smaller arena. And so having that, the more Valorant-esque play style of arenas, I think he's really fitting for that. Honestly, he seems a lot like a Valorant character, even just like his visual design and stuff like that, and the way his abilities look. It kind of feels like it was taken out of Valorant. In a way, I mean, that's not a bad thing. I just think it's kind of interesting and lends itself more to that arena's sort of gameplay style.
Yeah, do you think they're going to be transferring or transitioning more towards that in the future?
Maybe. I mean, I think at most we'll get like more of a 50-50 split, which, I mean, I'm fine with. I think arenas is pretty fun. I still definitely prefer Battle Royale. I don't think I
Mhm.
have actually met anybody who like prefers arenas.
Right.
But I feel like most people I talk to play it like now and again. Like, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to jump into between your main sort of Battle Royale games, just because it's faster paced and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, getting a character every so often that's geared towards that, I don't think is a bad thing. It's just not geared towards me specifically.
Hmm. Yeah, like as an outsider just looking in, I always wonder if they're going to be like they have their arenas mode. What if they go with something closer to like the your quick multiplayer match in Call of Duty, or if they go more like in the direction of like Overwatch, with your team based like objectives. And I don't know, like I'm really curious to see like what they kind of go for it, if they add more modes and try to find out what sticks better than Battle Royale, if any does. And then once that happens, they kind of push way more that direction. But I think it's cool that they're adding, at least they have that arenas mode. I think it's cool that's not just a Battle Royale game anymore. And I just really hope that they keep trying out new stuff and not just have like the one mode for sure.
Yeah, I mean, arenas, I definitely think they put that in there just because that is kind of what's hip right now in multiplayer first person shooters. Like right now, deathmatch is kind of going out, I guess. Like a lot of really popular, I would say, with the exception of Call of Duty, even then I would say Call of Duty's more popular modes aren't deathmatch.
Yeah, I would agree.
But, most really popular first person shooters are, slower paced, objective based, tactical competitive shooters with Valorant or Rainbow Six Siege or the not Warzone Call of Duty things with, I can't think of the names of any of the modes, but there's a few in there, or even what's it called, fucking XDefiant, Ubisoft's new game that looks really kind of generic and boring. Like that is the same thing, and that kind of seems the way that the industry is moving towards right now. So I do think that was kind of Apex making itself more relevant, which I mean that's not a bad thing. It's a thing they got to do, keep themselves relevant and adapt. So I mean, if in 3 or 4 years from now a new type of shooter is kind of what's at the king, I could definitely see them adding another mode, like you're saying, to match with that. It's the new thing is going to be it's going to be time travel shooters. That's going to be the new hip thing. I don't know what that means, but it's going to be time travel shooters.
4D chess, but the shooter version.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's an okay season.
Cool. What do you think of XDefiant? I saw the trailer just the other day, and I was just kind of like, I didn't even know really what to expect. So I just like clicked on it. It was just like, didn't know it was Ubisoft. I didn't know it was anything. I just clicked on it, and I was like, oh, okay. So is this a Call of Duty like clone? And then I'm like seeing abilities, and then I was like, oh wait, no, this is like Division enemies. Wait a second. And so I was just kind of like trying to understand what I was looking at, but then nothing looked cool, and then all of a sudden the trailer was over. So what did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it looked generic as shit, to be honest. It looked like every modern shooter trope just kind of like pressed into one video game, which is kind of Ubisoft's MO at this point. But I don't know. I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna go anywhere near that game, to be honest. But I mean, I think it's neat, the idea of like a big sort of Ubisoft crossover game, with like factions from a bunch of different stuff. That's kind of cool. But other than that, also, like, this game doesn't look like a Tom Clancy game at all. Like,
I feel like it's just called that because of it's called Tom Clancy's The Division, and like all these classes are, maybe there's one that isn't, but 3 out of those 4 I'm pretty sure are from The Division, like their enemy factions.
But they easily couldn't have been. Like, there's no reason
totally.
other than just marketing.
I just haven't heard people talk about that. That's all. Like, I haven't heard people be like, be like, oh, it's just some punk ass like dudes that you're playing as, and it's like, well, they are like enemy classes from The Division. I just haven't heard people say that, so I wanted to point that out.
Yeah. But I don't know, like the idea of a Tom Clancy game with like a punk rock aesthetic is just intensely funny to me, also because just because Tom Clancy was such like a buttoned up like right wing dude that. Like punk rock is just the opposite of what his shit was. is just a little fun to me. I don't know. I find myself caring less about Ubisoft with every passing moment, and this just kind of furthers me towards that.
Yeah, it's you know what? This is a future that I did not see coming for myself, where I've never been like the biggest Ubisoft fan, but I liked their games and I never thought ill of them. And I've always, like, ever since I guess 2013 when Dead Space 3 came out, pretty much haven't given a crap about EA. All of a sudden I'm starting to like EA more and more, and now I just don't give a crap about Ubisoft. So I just thought that's funny because I never thought that would be my future.
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft just seems to really go with the most marketable stuff they could possibly put out, I guess is a good way of putting it, where it's like everything that's hip right now in video games, let's put it into our games in one way or another. And that's just boring as shit to me. It's the opposite of innovative. It's not what I want to see from the industry, but except the thing is, it doesn't even sell, because I feel like I keep on seeing, I was about to say, like, it sells, so I guess it's working for them, but like I keep on seeing stuff about how Ubisoft games are underperforming, so they need to switch
but
it
I
up,
heard that,
guess.
or I'm pretty sure I saw that, like, I have nothing to back myself up on this, but I'm almost certain that Assassin's Creed Valhalla did like really, really well. I don't know compared to what or like or anything like that. I just remember seeing like positive things on that one, and that was when I was just so like, I am so not into this. This is definitely like not looking like the quality I want personally. But like, you never heard people talk about it. Yet apparently it sold really well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of believe that just because it was like a next-gen launch title. So, you know, everyone who got a new console, or not everyone, a lot of people who got a new console like, oh, you know, I want a new game, and that just came out alongside it, so you can play that, or Cyberpunk, but I don't think you want to be playing Cyberpunk.
That's a great point.
On your console. God, remember Cyberpunk? Anyway, but yeah, I can understand that, but like Ghost Recon fucking...
Breakpoint? Yeah.
Breakpoint. Like classic
that one underperformed.
They pulled in some dumb shit from other genres, like kind of made it Division-y or whatever, and it just tanked because it wasn't really what people wanted out of that series. I'm trying to think of, they had some other game that came out in the last year. It's just
Immortals Phoenix Rising. Rising.
Yeah, was also just kind of like what's hip right now.
Their Breath of the Wild.
I heard that one was
wannabe.
good, but I heard it was good, but I didn't hear anything about its sales.
I played the demo for that one, and it did not feel how I wanted it to feel. It looked interesting enough for me to give it a try, so I played the demo, and the way it feels playing it, I was like, man, this just feels really janky and also kind of more like Assassin's Creed, because I think it was actually based, like, they used a lot of the same assets from, they were basing it off of, I think, the same, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it was like something like the early version that leaked onto Stadia. People saw it was the same compass at the top as Assassin's Creed. What was the one in Odyssey? That's the one. And they had the same compass from that and a few other things. So like the parry move is the same button combination, and you have a few things that are the way the buttons and like the icons appear when you hold down the trigger and stuff that lay out the same way. So I feel like they have a lot of the same assets used in order to swap it over, try to make a Breath of the Wild clone, and then it just didn't. I assume it didn't do that great because I don't hear anything about it. And then like even the Rainbow Six, whatever the heck it's called now, Infection or Plague.
No, it's not Outbreak. It's Extraction.
Yeah, Extraction.
Yeah,
that one just doesn't. I feel like at least, and I hate to be this person, okay, but I'm going to be him for a second. Graphics wise, none of these games have looked that amazing. Like, they've all looked like last gen games that are like really like games that just don't have the time for the polish yet, I guess is the best way to explain it. But they look rough around the edges.
Effort. They look low effort. They look like they put as much budget as they had to put into this game to make it a sellable product. Like,
no bugs. Okay, good. We're good. Let's launch it.
No bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We should jump into our favorite games.
Let's do it. Number 27. We're on to number 27 of our favorite games of all time. Sweet. Ziggy, why don't you take it away? Do your number 27. Go.
All right, well, this is going to be... I was kind of confused. I thought I did this one already, but it's Doom 2016, which is probably the best reboot of all time, I would say. just like way fucking better than it has any right to be. You know, they released like Doom 3, which was good, but you know, people were like, it's not really a Doom game. You know, they released Rage, it's like on the 360, and that was kind of shit. So no one really cared. And then them coming back, you know, don't have the best track record anymore, but it's and they're making a new Doom game. This is awesome. We've seen some prototypes of this new Doom reboot game, and it looks kind of shitty, but you know, maybe this is different. Maybe they've turned it around, and you know, it comes out, have some weird sketchy review shit. People are really ready for it to just be a stinker, but nope, it is fucking phenomenal with some of the best shooter like fucking mechanics out there, like super tight, just a perfect reimagining of what the original Doom was into a beautiful, shiny, glossy new form. And also kind of completely, I would say, kick-started this new wave of like retro shooters. I feel like a lot of those started coming out after Doom 2016, where there was so much more interest in this now of, oh yeah, old shooters were really fucking good, huh? And then you know, you get Dusk, and you get Proteus, and you get Ultra Kill, dare I say his name. And yeah, it's just, I would say at the time, there was a while where this was my favorite first-person shooter. A lot of first-person shooters have come out since then, and those have taken the spot of it. But I feel like so many of those games were either inspired by this reboot, or one of them is a direct sequel. So it's just fucking awesome video game.
Yeah, that game just like blew my mind when I played it the first time. I was just like, man, I didn't realize that a game like this could be this fun. And and I don't know if I beat it though. And I think
interesting.
I know I got really far, and so I don't know. It's like, you know, when you can tell you're getting close to the end of a game. I know I got to that point, and then it's like I don't actually know if I finished it or not. I feel like I did not. I know I dabbled in the multiplayer. Did you play that at all?
Oh, I don't think I ever touched it. I think I looked and I'm like, I don't need to, and then I moved on to something else.
I remember just wanting to give it a shot and not having a fun time, getting just wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that the pacing of it is probably the thing I'd talk down most. And honestly, that's probably what makes it lower on this list than most others, just because it used a very retro style of pacing, which I think didn't work for a modern video game where it's just balls to the walls action 24/7. There's no breaks. So you can only really play it for like an hour at a time, I found. Just because you play any more than that, you get exhausted and you just kind of have to go do something else. And that's where like Doom Eternal and other games just do it so much better, because they give you that time to breathe and time to sort of recuperate, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, what is your number 27?
My number 27, just trying to see if I could find a trailer for it, but I'll just click on something here because it's so old. The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures on the GameCube. Ooh. So this game is still like just every single Zelda game is my number one at some point in my life. but this Zelda game was that one where you wanted to play co-op, you wanted to play with a friend, or with specifically me. I wanted to play this with my brother. When we were living at home, of course, just little teenage kids, and I wanted to play this, but you have to have a Game Boy for each player, and the cable that goes into the GameCube, and you have to have the disc, the game on, and like, yeah, just own so much. And so it wasn't until much later that I was able to actually experience getting this game and playing it with friends. I still have the physical copy of the disc, and I ended up saving and actually have enough Game Boy Advances or Game Boy Advance SPs and the cables that I'm able to now do 4 players. And now, being an adult, I have the hardest time finding 3 other people who want to play this with me. So I still have never played this with 3 other people. I've basically played up to 3 players all at once, but I've never done 4. And it is just like my goal in life before I die. Even if I'm 80, I got to play this with 3 other people. So yeah, this game was so cool at the time. I mean, playing single player, you go inside, and this little menu, if you're watching, you can see the little menu pops up, and you can see indoors or inside of a hole in the ground or something like that. But if you're playing multiplayer, you can actually like see the inside of the buildings on your Game Boy, so you can kind of see your own. It's not taking up the screen on the TV, and you can actually. I just thought that was the coolest thing, and just being able. Everyone has their own personal window into the inside of this building or underground or wherever, and you're kind of playing together to collect enough of these Triforce or these Force gems. They're called, they're like triangle rupees, right? And once you get 2,000, your swords power up, and you need to do that in order to finish the level. And each level is kind of laid out on a big overworld map, kind of like a traditional Mario game where you're going from level to level. And the objective, of course, is different in each one, different puzzles and different items and different enemies and some bosses and different ones. And I just like that whole approach, having different worlds, having this maiden village where you're going into this dark world underneath where you appear as a shadow to everyone else in the normal world, and like going back and forth in there, figuring out the puzzles. That game is actually so good. If you just want like a good game that will actually make you think and also just have a good time with a bunch of friends, I think it's fantastic. And then your also friendly competition part is fighting for the most Force gems, and then it'll have a little tally at the end showing who had the most and rank you who won and that kind of thing. But yeah, being able to pick each other up, toss each other over the gaps in the ground, be able to collect items, say even like upgrading your items to giant bombs instead of regular ones, or an arrow that can now shoot like multiple really quick, things like that. It's just so cool. It's your traditional Zelda like Link to the Past type of game, but with 4 players. I guess is the best way to explain it. So love this game to death. Looking forward to eventually playing with 4 people. Or with 3 other people, I guess.
Sounds like this game walked so that the Wii U could run, if you ask me.
Why?
Although I wouldn't say that the Wii U ran. I know it's like the Wii U gamepad.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Maybe, but they never put it out on the Wii U.
That would have been fantastic. So that the Wii U walked.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's my number 27. What's your 26?
Awesome. My 26 is Metal Gear Solid 5, which is, despite the fact that it is unfinished in the strongest sense of the word, like it literally doesn't have a real ending, and it, a lot of issues with it as a Metal Gear Solid game. That said, it is one of the funnest games out there, I would say, just in that gameplay loop of doing a mission, seeing like dudes using your binoculars, like, oh shit, that's an S-class soldier, sneaking up to him, tranking him, getting him up in a little balloon in the sky, which is always super fun, and building your little army of that, in addition to just like really fucking top-notch stealth gameplay of having your million little gadgets and shit. It's so fun. It's so good. And the story, I think, honestly, gets more crap than it maybe deserves. Because I think, despite the fact that it's not finished, I do think it's good. It's obviously not nearly as good as like your Metal Gear Solid 2s or 3s, but I think it's perfectly fine. I enjoyed it. I think a lot of people make it sound worse than it actually is. And it does actually have a couple really neat moments. It's a 6-year-old game. I'm kind of fine spoiling it. Where I remember in the sort of second like chapter of the game, like after you kill Skullface and all that in the second bit, where a bunch of your crew members get sick and you have to go in and sort of figure out what's up in this like quarantine zone, and they end up kind of going after you. You have to like kill all of your own men, and that's like kind of an interesting emotional moment. But yeah, I mean, just the gameplay loop of this game is so fucking strong. Like, I have an interesting relationship with stealth games where I sometimes really enjoy them, sometimes really don't. But the way that this game handles it is just so above and beyond probably any other stealth game I've played.
Awesome. I only played like the first maybe hour or 2 of that one. Liked it a lot, but I think it was a little too focused on stealth, for at least at the time, for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Dishonored with the degree that you do, you would probably really enjoy the gameplay. This just, I don't know, skip cutscenes or something, because I mean, you said you've never really gotten to Metal Gear, right?
Right, exactly. I don't know the story at all or anything like that.
So it will be fucking nothing.
But I did enjoy the cutscenes. I watched them all for the beginning part that I did play. Like, I did enjoy that. It's just I think it's and maybe I just didn't give it enough a shot, but I know I like having the option to go chaotic if I need to, I guess. It's like, if I can be like, okay, I went from stealth mode to action hero in a second. If I can, then I got to give this another shot.
Yeah, definitely in the first few missions, you don't really have the tools to do that. But later, I mean, you can
Right.
get like the big, bulky battle suit and the tools to do that where you can
Big,
really hold
bulky
your own in a
battle
big...
suit. Okay, you
He
sold me.
looks huge. He's chunky. Also, the game
That's-
is like fucking $2 all the time.
I have it, I think, on,
so-
on PS4
You
already.
do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Good modding community too. It's got a nice little modding scene.
Nice.
But yeah, very, very, very good playing video game.
Well, if that's all you have to say on that one, I will go into my 26. That would be BioShock Infinite.
Ooh. First
This-
BioShock on the list.
Yes, and you know, it's still special. It's still like it. You know, it's a great game. Story, in my opinion, very, very good. And I really appreciate how it ties in with BioShock 1 and 2 without directly being a sequel to them. And it does it in such a smart way. Have you beaten this one, Zig? Just a little side note.
Ooh, I haven't. I got a chunk into it, probably a few hours, but I can't say that I ever got to the end.
All right. Well, are you okay with me spoiling it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, spoiler warning, everyone. If you haven't finished BioShock Infinite, what the heck is wrong with you? Go finish that and then come back. But, you know, it should only take like 20 hours or something. I don't know. Anyways, this game, it is set in its own unique world. And it's set in, like, I think it's like the... Ooh, I don't even know what time. I was going to say 1930s, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyways, besides all that, me coming off of BioShock 1 was, let's just say it's high up on my list here, okay? And when it came out, it was my number one at the time. And like just me having my eyes open to a mature game that isn't just focused on horror, but also a good story. And I just like could not believe that as a 17-year-old kid. And so going into, I think this game came out in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, no, that seems too early. I want to find out now. Well,
I think it was 2011.
BioShock. I'm thinking it 2013 now. Please. 2013. March 26, 2013. Okay, so anyways, me looking forward to that coming out. I think BioShock 1 came out 2007, so, you know, there was a BioShock 2 in there that I loved and everything. I think that might have been 2010. But yeah, looking forward to this one. I remember the first trailer and just being like kind of disappointed it wasn't in Rapture again. Like I love that city, and I still do. That is my favorite character in a video game. That's my favorite like location in a video game. Rapture is such a cool world and a living city. So seeing Columbia, which is the floating city in BioShock Infinite, was a little disappointing for me when I first saw the trailer. I grew to like it a lot more than I did initially, but it just never pulled me in such a way that Rapture did. And so when I play that game, I just don't feel like it's really lived in as much as I did with Rapture. I didn't feel as close to that city as I did with Rapture. But the gameplay felt really, really good, and the story felt really good. Having your character Booker, actually, I think he's voiced by why am I forgetting all the easy names too? Troy Baker. I should know that one right off the top of my head, right? He's voiced by Troy Baker, and fantastic job, of course. It's cool having a character that's speaking to the NPCs in the game, and then you have your character Elizabeth, who's you're playing with, and she's there with you along most of the journey. But that first act of the game, where you are going to rescue Elizabeth from the tower, is, I think, so powerful, so cool for me, and how you get to meet the Lutece twins, who basically one is from a different dimension than the first one, so there's a male and female version of them, and they are basically the same person in a different alternate reality, basically another world that is like the one you're in. And throughout the game you will notice different rifts and tears, and they will actually swap between different like realities in the game. And so then you start to realize at the end of the game that Elizabeth, she eventually unlocks her abilities to create worlds, or be able to create anything she wants, pull from anywhere in any world she wants, and you get essentially traveled to some weird limbo where you're walking from lighthouse to lighthouse, and she's showing you the stars in the sky, and you're seeing all these little points of light, and you realize they're all the tips of all these different lighthouses, and she's kind of saying metaphorically, these lighthouses are all different worlds, all different ones, and they all have a man, they all have a city, and they all have a lighthouse. And so it kind of ties in, like, this is why Bioshock 1 has a lighthouse and a man in the city. And it's kind of like making it feel like you could go anywhere you want with Bioshock, and as long as it has these three things, it's Bioshock. And then she even like has you teleport into one of the first areas in Bioshock 1 where you get injected with the needle and you get your electrical powers. It's this big room right at the beginning. And I think that's such a cool way for them to show that at the end, but not be like, it's the same world, it's a different world, but it's also a similar situation as what you're experiencing now. And I just think that a lot of stuff like that's really cool. And then you even learn that Comstock, the main villain in the game, is you. And that you are actually the main villain, and you are from a different dimension. You were going to save your daughter, and then it turns out your daughter is actually Elizabeth, who you've been with the whole time. And then it's like this whole thing, and that's why she's missing a pinky, because like when she got pulled through this portal, it cuts off her pinky, and so somehow like a part of her is in two different realities, two different worlds. And it's such a cool story that really starts to, and I think it makes the replay, the second playthrough actually more enjoyable than Bioshock 1 and 2 do, for example. But yeah, I could talk about it for a long time. I just think that this game is definitely worth putting on my list because it does a lot of great Bioshock things, has your powers, has your guns. The story is very good. I just would put it below any of the other Bioshocks.
Yeah. I mean, you're comparing it to one of the best games of all time, so
exactly.
It's hard to, yeah. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I think that's about it, right?
It is. With that, I guess we'll just end the show. So again, thanks for watching. If you got this far, really appreciate it. Please leave a like and subscribe. And if you're listening on podcast services, please leave a follow and let me know how I can improve, how we can improve. And again, just a quick reminder, next week's the last weekly episode, and then we're going to monthly. So until then, keep peeking that screen. Bye, everyone.
Keep speaking that. Oh, no.
Peen?